Marketing with my husband.
Damn, okay, we're here.
First one. This has been a long time coming.
It has been a long time coming. I think we've spoken about it for a long time. So should we intro what it's actually called?
I think so.
So welcome to the Marketing with My Husband podcast.
This has been as we said, a long time coming for us, but I guess a doorway into our conversations. You and I love marketing. I don't know why, but I think it honestly, for me, it shapes what we think and believe. Growing up, the best ads and the billboards and everything you see and everything that's told, you believe. So I think for us, marketing is so powerful, but I think it's what you do with it, which is what we love.
Yeah, definitely. I think we've had a lot of people always say to us, like, we've worked together for 7 years now. Mm-hmm. We're married, we're husband and wife, and a lot of people are like, how do you guys not strangle each other? And I think some days we want to strangle each other for sure. Oh, okay, that was a quick answer. But this is just a real good insight into what we think on marketing and I guess our at-home conversations. Like, we are at our house right now. And there's been, in this process of obviously planning for the podcast, so many times that I've wanted to tell you things, marketing related things, and you're kind of like, save it for the podcast. Mm-hmm. So now we're at the podcast, so let's go. Let's talk about it.
Let's jump in. What are we talking about?
Before we get started, I want to do a segment on the podcast where we give any marketing or personal recommendations. So do you have any recommendations for anyone this week?
I do. So the last few weeks I've been reading a book by Eric Thompson, Surrounded by Idiots. I think it's a phenomenal book for me. My big thing that I love is psychology, which obviously goes pretty hand in hand with marketing as well. But I guess the book's about, if you think everyone's an idiot, you're actually the idiot. So it teaches you how to actually adapt to people's personalities and, understand people better. Is that the right word?
Yeah, I think I understand people better. I remember when you got the book at the airport and I was like, oh my God, of course you got this book. You think everyone's an idiot. And then I was like, oh, you're the idiot. Got you. But it's really good. My personal recommendation this week would be it's a marketing related recommendation. So I would say to follow the creators page on Instagram. So this is where I probably get all of my latest updates across the platform, across Meta. And I saw a really interesting update this week. I did tell you about this already, so it's not as authentic to tell you in real time because I was so excited. You can now play Reels back in 2 times the speed. So I think that is going to be a massive shift for how we consume content on socials. It's already like a reel worth, 2 seconds or 5 seconds goes more viral than, a 2-minute reel. But how crazy that our attention span is changing that much that now we're going to play it in 2 times speed.
I can just see people just scrolling and then moving the bar across to get to the end, scrolling, move the bar across. So we're actually, as marketers, going to have to find ways that we hold that attention and make them want to watch it without skipping it next.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. It's like, we're in this world where we now play videos at 2 times the speed just to get through them. And it's meant to be entertainment anyway. So we're rushing our entertainment. It's going to be a real interesting landscape for socials. Okay, you ready to dive in?
Let's do it.
Okay, so this topic, I have so many palm cards, if you can see how many palm cards I have if you're watching on video. So the topic this week for our first one, we wanted to hit something that was super massive and super relevant. I just want to say before we jump into this that we are not political experts and in no way are we diving into any political agendas, any bias. I actually don't really understand it. We're talking about the marketing behind politics at the moment. So don't come to us for your educational resource. Go to some of the influencers we'll talk about in this.
Definitely not. We understand politics to a degree, but we are by no means any expert.
You understand. I don't understand. So our main topic today is youth-related marketing in the upcoming 2025 federal election. So super interesting stats I'm going to throw out here at the moment, but for the first time ever, Millennials and Gen Z voters will outnumber baby boomers. So according to the Australian Electoral Commission, Millennials and Gen Z make up approximately 7.7 million enrolled voters, while baby boomers account for 5.8 million. This is crazy.
That is huge. And is it the first time it's ever happened?
It's the first time it's ever happened. So we've seen marketing tactics like this play out before. So in the 2024 US election, it was actually named the year of the TikTok elections. We saw the parties invite over 200 content creators to the Democratic National Convention. So we've seen marketing like this before. We've also seen it when Stephen Miles was running for Premier of Queensland and he was appearing on podcasts where he was doing shoeies and in pride marches and all of this crazy stuff. We've seen it before, but I feel like now more than ever, it's ramping up. What are your thoughts? Have you seen this?
I have, and I think, to be honest, it's where it needs to go. I think as this conversation develops, we'll go into it, but I think especially us as young people, we've struggled to develop trust with politicians. And for them to get on these social media platforms and start trying new age digital marketing, it shows that they're trying to get with the new times. People are on these platforms. Like, you and I don't watch TV.
No,
If we do,
we don't even have an antenna in our house.
exactly.
Which is so bad.
We'll watch Netflix, we'll watch YouTube, but we don't turn on the TV because of all the ads. We hate the ads. So I'd rather pay for more.
Actually, to the contrary of that, when we stayed at the casino before the One conference, remember how excited we were to finally get to watch the ads? And we're like, maybe we should watch ads more for our own market research.
True.
That's the only time we'll watch the ads.
Yeah, so I think politicians now jumping on board shows, and they're the kings and queens of traditional marketing, using TV, using radio, billboards, you name it. Now jumping onto these platforms shows exactly where we're heading. They understand the value and the worth.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of showing that they get it. So there's two main, content mediums I'm going to talk about today with you. So the first is podcast appearances. So we have jumped in and we've listened to all the podcasts that they appeared on. But there's a few that I want to mention by specifics. So first you got Anthony Albanese, our Prime Minister. So he appeared on Abby Chatfield's It's a Lot. And he also appeared on Happy Hour with Lucy and Nikki. So there's actually a viral clip going around at the moment. I'm going to play it for you now, which is Delulu with no Salulu. Mm-hmm. So this is where it actually comes from, if you've seen this floating around on Instagram.
They are Delulu with no Salulu, Mr. Speaker.
Delulu. Can use it in a sentence.
I must be Delulu, but I feel like he was giving me the eyes.
Delusional.
Perfect.
Boom.
Yep.
Like
Okay, next one.
Peter Dutton on nuclear power costs. Delulu.
I dare you to
Do you
drop that
reckon
in
I
the
could
speech.
do that?
Can
Delulu
you
with no
drop that in the
Salulu.
speech?
We've got budget week next week. Listen up. Be a little in-joke between the three of us and all of your
The
Punters.
crew.
The three of us and the punters.
Well, Mr. Speaker, they are Delulu with no Salulu, Mr. Speaker. They are completely delusional.
So it's interesting, right? That came out of a slang quiz where he was basically learning what it meant. So Delulu, delusional, Salulu with no solution. And they actually dared him to do it in Parliament House, and he did it. I think that's a massive game changer because it shows that he stuck to his word no matter how embarrassing or what the backlash was.
Yeah, and there obviously was heaps of backlash on it, but that's what probably caused the virality of it, which has then got his message out there more, which has then done exactly what he wanted to do. So I think, yeah, it's really powerful. It's pretty ballsy to do it in such a traditional government
Oh, it
sense.
was ballsy, no doubt. And I think with this, I was actually a little hesitant before I'd listened to any of these podcasts because I'd kind of seen this on socials before I'd even absorbed any of the podcasts. And for me, I actually felt really related to personally me, Anthony Albanese. Listening to his story, hearing that he came, from a low socioeconomical area, he built up his wealth, his education. He worked multiple jobs to support that. It was a podcast that really showed him as a person, and then very rarely did they even dive into political agendas or policy.
Yeah, I think that's the aim of the game at the moment, to show the actual personality behind them politicians. Obviously, if we relate to our special niche is more real estate, we're probably 90% real estate, if anything. And our big task is to build trust with agents. And if we look at the most untrusted jobs out there, is politicians and real estate agents. So cool. They're seeing the gap there that what needs to be done. And Anthony Albanese there, I've never looked at politics and actually known anything about anyone. All you really ever see is their billboards, their hate crimes against their opposition. Yeah. You name it. We'll see them on TV. They're arguing, they're angry, they're passionate, but we know nothing about the person. So I actually looked into Mark Boris with Anthony Albanese. He did a podcast as well. I think that's a slightly different audience demographic he's targeting as well. So the last one you were talking about is probably more women-based. I think Mark Boris probably has an older demographic.
Definitely.
He's really getting around and making
diversifying.
Exactly. He's getting into the right eyes and the right ears. But yeah, I've actually, probably the first time I ever looked at a politician and gone, wow, I didn't realise that he's a bit of a battler. I actually understand his story. Grew up in social housing, single mom, goes for plays rugby.
Yeah.
Just a guy, just a bloke that's really trying his best, who now's ended up in the biggest accolade in Australia, being the Prime Minister. I think it's actually kind of crazy.
Definitely. And he's not the only one too. So Peter Dutton has featured on a few too. So he actually did a Mark Borra Straight Talk episode as well. And a lot of these podcasts are actually getting both sides and multiple politicians on the podcast to obviously hear two sides, to have no political bias. He also went on Diving Deep with Sam Fricker as well. And I think the key difference about a podcast here is it really lets them explore, I guess, their mission, who they are, in a really nuanced way. And it's completely different to a 30-second TV, super scripted, strict environment. So it's actually really exciting to see these politicians take up this new form of marketing.
And why I think it's not really biased to go on these podcasts. They're obviously interviewing multiple people, so it's not just one agenda, but these podcasters they're opening up with inquisitiveness rather than through a direct bias and asking questions. They're actually asking because they genuinely want to know. But I guess as a young person myself, and you would be the same, that there's all these questions that we'd actually like to know, but we've never had the opportunity to ask. So if we've got young people that are actually standing up and asking these questions for us, then we might actually start trusting these politicians. We're actually seeing them as relatable figures rather than people we don't like.
Yeah, definitely. I think they're meeting us finally where we are, which is online.
Yeah.
And they're giving us the answers we want. Okay, the next one. This one's a big one. So it's the new media. Everyone's calling it the new media. And it's the new media inside the federal budget lock-in. Did you see this? They invited 13 influencers, content creators, to the federal budget lock-up.
Yeah, and they had a massive audience between them.
Massive. So it was like over 1.3 million people combined across Instagram and TikTok. That was their audience size. That's their loyal audience, their followers. It's not even their YouTube subscribers, their podcast listens, their views. That would be in the millions. So when we talk about that gap between baby boomers and Gen Z and millennials, that's a major targeted campaign to reach these people online. So they had around 13 content creators attend, but out of my favorite, I've just listed my favorite here very biasly. You've got Hannah Ferguson, who is the CEO of Cheek Media, Millie Rose Bannister, who is the founder of All Kind or All KND. She's known for her work in the youth mental health space. I actually really love Millie and her content. And Daphne Berry, who is the host of Airing Your Dirty Laundry. So these were content creators and influencers that couldn't be bought. These were influencers that are known for being super honest. They lead with integrity. They lead with inquisitiveness. It was a very strategic pull to have these people in the room.
And I think that's important. If they're going to do something like that, you don't just bring, people that are famous for dancing on TikTok in. You want people that actually are making a difference, that are trying to make noise in the right ways and want to actually be a difference to society.
Definitely. I think it's extremely important. So the big reason behind this was, and a lot of people were outraged by this. I'm going to dive into basically what the articles were after. But the big reason behind this was because this is the main source or the main platforms where youth and honestly even emerging baby boomers get their source of information right now. We don't trust traditional media, so they wanted to bring in new age media. I actually love this quote from Millie Rose Bannister. It was in a video interview where she said this: "I wouldn't say that people come to me or any of the creators involved in this experience to know who to vote for. We're not advising people who to vote for. We're advising people to vote informed." So a major thing here they're doing and leaning into, like you said, is they're actually not spitting that they're educators and they're experts in this space. They're learning along with their audience.
And there's so much to learn. I think this is something that's been untapped. As I've mentioned previously, it's just we haven't had this access. If you look at social media, one of the best things it can provide is a behind the scenes or behind the curtains look of what people are going through, what their personalities are like, what their family, their upbringing, that sort of thing. It becomes more personal. So having these people on the ground is actually, I think, helping me create an interest in politics. Obviously, with the federal election coming up, and there's more millennials and Gen Zs than baby boomers, first time in Australia's history. That's huge. So if they can create interest and get these young people interested in politics and actually understand the person rather than just their political views, then all of a sudden people are going, I could actually make a difference here and my vote genuinely counts.
Definitely. I think, there's a lot of topics that are being brought up, which is obviously the cost of living is a major one that people are touching on. And I think for the first time ever, our younger population of Australia is really thinking, shit, my vote does count, and maybe I should be more educated. And it's making it so much easier that they're meeting us where we are.
When you look at the cost of living, how expensive everything is, how expensive rent is, not to go into the
I feel like we're
deep
going
dive,
into political.
but it is in everyone's best interest as a young person now to be involved. So I think what they're doing is brilliant to get into the space, to get into the homes of young people, to make them interested and go, I genuinely actually want to know what's going on here because one day I want to be able to buy a house.
It's super. Okay, I ask you then, like, it's a super strategic plan from both parties. Like, they have someone leading this, you reckon?
Definitely. I think there's
It's no accident.
I think there's a very smart boardroom meeting happening, and the people in the marketing sector are doing a fantastic job. I think that things are changing. Like if we look back, probably the last election, all you'd see is the billboard saying to the opposition, they're not going to be doing this, or they're going to be taking away this, or they actually never gave us what they were going to do for themselves. They always attacked the opposition. And you and I talked about it a lot. Every time we drive past a billboard like that, we go, God, I hate politicians.
Yeah, like you're losing my vote now because you're spending your money telling me how shit the other person is, not what you're going to do.
And I
got nothing from that.
Yeah, we had no idea what they actually offered. I just wanted on the sign saying, hey, we're going to make housing more affordable. We're going to increase jobs. And we go, oh, okay, that's good to know. Rather than the opposition sucks.
Yeah, the black and white photos.
Yeah.
Okay, so we spoke about the backlash from these content creators and these influencers being in the federal budget lock-in. I'm going to play you one more video. So this is when Millie Rose Bannister appeared on the project post the federal budget lock-in. I'm actually personally appalled by this, but it gives me threatened energy. Okay. It gives me that traditional media is threatened. So I'm going to play it for you, and I would love your opinion on this.
They are completely delusional.
All right, was that your fault?
It actually wasn't. But I do think the way that politicians are engaging with, influencers and non-traditional media is fundamentally changing. So I don't blame him for trying to throw that in.
That was a bit cringe, though, wasn't it? A little bit cringe?
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely.
That's the snippet I'll give you. What does that give you? What energy did that give you when they were interviewing her?
I think TV is definitely threatened by new age media. I think you would agree with that. That obviously the numbers and the masses are shifting away from TV. I used to watch that program. Now I don't care about it. And I'm sure I'm one of millions of people. A big thing for them was ad revenue. So getting audience and eyes on their platform is really important. But you'll see them moving to socials too, which is super interesting. But yeah, it just seems like let's keep it traditional. Let's keep it the old way. Let's keep doing what we've been doing for centuries. Yeah, it's weird.
I think personally Millie held herself so well. I could see it on her face and how uncomfortable that must have been for her. It gave me that they were patronising. It gave that they were like saying, oh, the Delulu with no Salulu, was that your fault? It was cringe, wasn't it? It's like, well, aren't you journalists? Wouldn't you do your research and see that they were on one of the most top-rated, like he was on one of the most top-rated podcasts, and that's where it came from? And it's interesting because I actually watched an interview with Sunrise, and they interviewed Lucy and Nikki, and it was a completely different landscape. The way they actually interviewed Lucy and Nikki were like, oh, wow, this is great that he engaged with it. It was very positive. So that interview itself felt very patronizing and almost trying to bring down the significance of what had actually happened bringing these people in. And the backlash from that interview was just like crazy. I think they even asked a question at the end where they said, oh, what should, this politician do to go viral? And Millie drops a bomb where she's like, maybe bringing up something about youth mental health would go viral. And I was just like,
I love that.
It's great. It was great. So talking more on the backlash. So basically the narrative was basically that these were influencers and they were not worthy of taking up space for such a serious topic such as the federal budget lock-in. They should not be involved. And this was stated by an article from the Australian Financial Review, and this is the title. It says, "Influencers in Parliament, the outrage is as tired as it is sexist." And the subtitle or the subheading was, "The response to female influencers in Parliament House was extravagant and patronising. Confirmation that the political class still think young women shouldn't worry their pretty little heads about money." And it has been going on for a week. The backlash has been crazy. it just gives me this rift between traditional and new age. And I find it crazy because if you're going to start stepping into new age realms with podcasts and social platforms, then you should back up when the new age steps in and gets involved in your space.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's crazy, isn't it? Those sort of things, it's just like slander. It's just trying to persuade the masses to think a certain way about social media. And like, I've been in rooms with people that just think it's the most ridiculous, stupidest thing, social media. It's not going to do anything, which to us, we know is absolute garbage because it gets us in every door. I get to shake so many hands. I meet so many incredible people just based on what we've pushed out there, what we've created online. It's such a platform. And to be honest, I think I look at TV, it's just another source of media. It's just another source of media. And why are we looking at it so differently? If you can be a content creator, if you have 1 million people that follow you, that is absolutely insane. So if you use it,
you have like even 500 people is insane.
Exactly. We're all sort of micro influencers in a way. Like, I think the word influencer has been sort of thrown around as a bit of a garbage term.
Yeah, I know.
But it is true.
But you hold influence.
Correct. Like, even just going to the local cafe and just ordering a coffee and saying, oh my God, the best coffee is at Coffee Guru. There you go, in Brookwater.
Ooh,
shout out.
wow.
Which it is, I would say.
I would say that
That
too.
people listen to this and they go, oh, actually, I feel slightly influenced to go to Coffee Guru in Brookwater. Not sponsored at all.
I completely agree. Okay, so if we were to wrap all of that up, because that's obviously a major dump into just talking about social media, what do you reckon the key takeaways are, Fo? So I say it's coming from the top. These are my takeaways. So I'd say we're watching it from the top be adapted, and it's not new. In the last 3 years, we've watched it slowly become more and more, and I think this federal election is going to completely change the way we consume important information and media. So if we're watching all of these people from the top engage in it, take it up, and do it, to be honest, really well. I'm like, whoever is leading the Prime Minister's marketing campaign, my hat is off to you. You are amazing at what you do. If we're watching it trickle from the top down, what do you say to the people that say, Dan, social media doesn't work. I'm not going to do it. It's cringe. I'm not doing it. What do you say to those people?
I would say that even if the most traditional people, the government themselves, who have to persuade the masses, they have to get people on their side, are starting to use it. Well, not even starting, they are using it prolifically. Then it's time for us to maybe have a look at ourselves. If it's our personal brand, if it's our small business, if it's our big business, how can we use it to benefit us? The biggest thing is it's free. You can collaborate with so many people and they appreciate you for bringing the media and bringing the exposure to them. Everyone is willing to accept and say yes to exposure. So why aren't we doing it? I think a big thing for me, and I'll throw it back to you, is consistency is a problem for people. I think they think it doesn't work because they put one or two things out there and they go, oh, well, no one reached out, or it just didn't work. And it's like, well, the photo is blurry.
Well, we're also so beyond the days of when you could just join an Instagram account and have 1,000 followers in 24 hours.
Definitely.
I remember when it was like that. I honestly remember you could do a giveaway post. It's heavily how I built my social media, is giveaway post. You could do a giveaway post. You could do anything. You would hit thousands and thousands of new followers. You would, if you joined Instagram, let's use Instagram on an Instagram baby, but if you join Instagram, in the first 24 hours, all your friends were notified. And it was like, Tia Hayes is now on Instagram. And like everyone followed you.
Yep.
We're beyond those days. So it does take a lot more to get up and running, but it still works. Like, and I think you're right. Consistency, 100%. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be consistent across a platform, and you have to be authentic. If you're not authentic and you're not really being you, people see that. You can't hold up a facade forever, and it's going to drop out.
And I think the government needs to use viral tactics because they need to reach all of Australia. And I think that's a really viral tactic they use in our early discussion about no Salulu or Delulu, no Salulu, whatever
You
it was.
sound so 30.
Yeah, I know. But you know what? Our people that are running a small business only need to target a selected radius around them, right? And
Use micro influencers in your area.
exactly. I spoke at the one conference in January, a real estate conference, and a big thing we used was, well, for $500, you can actually reach 100,000 people, but we don't even hardly even need to reach 100,000 people. Maybe we only need to reach 5 to 10,000 because that is an insane amount of people still for such a small budget. Look, there's so much we can be doing, and if we looked back in the day how expensive it was to get on TV,
Yeah.
it's so achievable now to market yourself and put yourself out there.
Okay. To finish, 3 tips. If you're not on social media or you suck on social media, I'm just going to be very blunt.
Yeah.
What are the 3 tips that you would take away that you see from what's happening in the government right now, in politicians? What's the 3 major tips you'd say?
3 tips. Geez, one I would say is collaborate with people that have influence.
Oh, great. Who have influence in if you're a local small business, do you reckon?
Okay, if you're the local cafe.
Yeah, you've got influence. You're
If-
like the mafia. if you're the
You
local
are.
cafe.
Yeah, you definitely. You can collaborate with maybe the local sports teams, with the local real estate agents. I'll say that biasly. The shopping centres next door, your friends. Is there anyone that's writing a book? Is there anyone that's, I don't know, that's a bit of a go-getter in your suburb? Use them.
Love that. Tip 2.
What was the question?
Question was, what marketing advice do you have for people that either suck or aren't on social media seeing what the politicians are doing?
Number 2 is find someone that knows what they're doing. You know, just ask questions. The likes of us, we're always happy to help, but there's people like us as well that you're happy to reach out to and ask questions. Using someone, if you're running a medium to big size business and you can afford someone just to do your social media, highly recommend
Just have someone do your social media.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Whether it's an external agency or someone in-house, it's going to help you so much because I think a lot of high net worth people or high performing people anyway don't have the time to be super creative,
Yeah.
unfortunately. So having someone that, it's like their dream role is to be creative. Why not get them in? That's
Just outsource.
I, every day, and you're the same, come up with creative concepts.
And I wish I could outsource someone to do that.
Sometimes, yeah. I never would like to give it up, the creativity, because I absolutely love it. But yeah, it's one of those things that if you pay someone to do it, then it's probably going to turn out better.
Okay, and tip number 3. And would you like the question again?
No, tip number 3, I'm going to throw back to you. What's your tip?
My tip, I would say research who your consumer actually is. Like, don't just throw stuff out there because you think, oh, it might work. I don't know. Like, actually research who they are and what they want to see. And it doesn't have to be in your own industry. So say, okay, for an example, we're in real estate. A lot of the content and a lot of the ideas I bring into our clients and our agents that we work with are outside of the industry because I feel like it gets really oversaturated. So just like learn who your ideal customer is or consumer. I love the word consumer. And then really just research where they spend their time, what they enjoy, what they like, and create content that's catered to them because you're going to go much further if you're creating content that people actually want to see.
Agree.
Marketing with my husband.